What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. Now, I know we've taken a little bit of a break due to free agency and such, but we're going to get right back into the NFL Combine, Day 3, quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, and we're going to start off with quarterback Taylen Green out of Arkansas. And he tore it up at the Combine, running a 4.36 40-yard dash, 43.5-inch vertical, 11-foot 2-inch broad jump, resulting in a 9.99 relative athletic score. Elite numbers. Over 14 games played this past season, he passed for over 2,700 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and then on the ground, he rushed for 777 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. A somewhat productive season, but a lot of interceptions. Overall, he's a great dual threat, has a big arm, good throw power, really solid once he hits his rhythm, and he has great size for a quarterback. On the downside, he has inconsistent mechanics, not always very accurate, subpar processing and decision making, but after all, he is a project. When I look at Taylen Green, I look at someone that could possibly adopt that Taysom Hill role, come on for third downs, quarterback power runs, stuff like that. He's not going to be someone that's going to step in immediately, obviously, and maybe not even be trusted with that backup quarterback role. But as a third string quarterback, I think he's a great developmental piece. And sticking with the Arkansas Razorbacks, we've got Mike Washington Jr., the running back, 6'1", 223, ran a 4.33 40-yard dash, a perfect 10 RAS score, solidifying himself as an early day 3 pick. Mike Washington's coming off a pretty productive season, rushing for a little over 1,000 yards, averaging 6.4 per carry and 8 touchdowns. He's made drastic improvements from every school he's gone to, first Buffalo, then New Mexico State, and obviously now Arkansas. He presents himself as a really intriguing prospect. He's really fast, obviously, enough speed to turn around the corner, good vision, very physical, hard to bring down, really dangerous with the ball in his hands, and he always falls forward. That's a great thing to see for a running back. He does a lot of good things, but there are some things to keep note of. He isn't the best at moving laterally. He isn't the most agile, sometimes relies on a straight line speed, and he might have a fumble problem. He fumbled 4 times last season and lost 2 of them. Whoever lands Mike Washington is getting a good player who's only going to progress further. Put him in a little committee as a running back 2 or 3, and he'll be able to contribute every game. And sticking with the running backs, we're going to be talking about one of the best overall prospects in this upcoming draft, Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame, 6', 212, and he ran a 4.36 40. Just when he thought he couldn't get better as a prospect, he put out a great 40 time for front offices to see. Obviously, he's a really productive back, and over the last 2 years, he finished just 3 yards short of 2,500 yards, nearly 7 yards a carry, and 35 touchdowns. Love is a freak athlete. One of his favorite things to do is hurdle people. He's got good vision, very dangerous and physical with the ball in his hands, good lateral ability for the most part, and he's phenomenal in pass protection. My only thing with Jeremiyah Love is that he runs with his feet open, and that can cause a lot of stress on his lower body, leading to knee, ankle, and ACL injuries. You see it with guys like Dak Prescott or in the NBA, Jason Tatum. They suffer a lot of lower body injuries. They walk with open feet. They run with open feet. That's what happens. You cause a lot of stress on your lower body. If you want a perfect example of perfect running form, you have Concepcion, who we'll get to later in this video. He absolutely killed that gauntlet drill, and if you watch the way he ran, his feet are narrow. They're straight and they're closed. Sometimes they're even angled inside, and that prevents any sort of collapse on his ankle or Achilles. Now we're going to talk about some fits for the running back. We're hearing he could go as early as the top 5. You got the Titans at 4. You have an aging Tony Pollard. He's got a contract here next year. That would be a great fit for young Cam Ward to have a little bit of help in the backfield, a generational talent at running back. And then at 5, you got the New York Giants. You have Cam Scadaboo coming off an injury. And then behind him, you got Tyrone Tracy. You got Devin Singletary. Adding in Jeremiyah Love, that would be perfect. And you could sell a lot of I love New York hoodies, right? That would be pretty cool. And lastly, probably my favorite fit for Jeremiyah Love, that's the Washington Commanders at pick 7. It's a little more reasonable to pick a running back outside the top 5, and you have a really weak running back room. You have Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. That's nothing to brag about. Throwing in Jeremiyah Love there would make that backfield so lethal. Him alongside Jaden Daniels would make that read option play unstoppable. And next up, you guessed it, Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, 6', 196, decent size for a wide receiver, but he killed that gauntlet drill, running in a straight line, perfect focus, great hands, and flawless running form. There is some recent news about the wide receiver. He did undergo a surgery for a knee scope, is described as routine and preventative, and he's expected to return for rookie camp and be 100%. And he's coming off a very productive season for Texas A&M, 61 receptions, 919 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And he's a pretty good gadget guy as well. 10 attempts, 75 yards, and a touchdown. But more importantly, he's a really good returner. Nearly 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. There's a lot to like about the guy. He's a great athlete, very explosive, can cut on a dime, really dangerous with the ball in his hands, and he's very sure-handed. He plays a lot bigger than he is, and then he has great ball tracking on top of that. And now let's talk about some fits for KC Concepcion. At 23, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Now this only happens if A.J. Brown gets traded. If he doesn't, they're not taking him. But if he does, he'd be a really nice fit. And next, we've got the Cleveland Browns at pick 24. Jerry Jeudy's on a contract year. And then you got Cedric Tillman. And then we've got the Houston Texans at pick 28. Besides Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz at tight end, you don't really have anyone. And Christian Kirk signed with the Niners, so you have to bring in someone else to help out CJ Stroud. And lastly, I know we're going on for a little bit here, but we've got the Miami Dolphins at pick 30, recently acquired from the Denver Broncos from the Jalen Waddle trade, and now you need wide receivers. You signed Jalen Tolbert from Dallas as your outside guy, and then you have Malik Washington in the slot. Besides that, there's nothing else. I think Concepcion on the outside, opposite to Tolbert, would be great. And next up, we've got Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana, Fernando Mendoza's number 1 guy. And he ran a 4.42 40 and recorded a 37-inch vertical. And obviously, he's coming off a very productive year. 69 receptions, 967 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, and 20 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. I like Omar Cooper a lot. He's fast, very explosive, great with the ball in his hands, plays bigger than he actually is, and he could do just about anything at the wide receiver position. Now let's talk about some fits for the wide receiver. The Philadelphia Eagles, only if A.J. Brown gets traded, obviously. Then the Cleveland Browns, Jerry Jeudy on an expiring contract. Then the Houston Texans. Besides Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz at tight end, you don't really have anyone. You need to give CJ Stroud some help. And then lastly, the Miami Dolphins, obviously lacking at wide receiver after trading Waddle. You just have Tolbert and Malik Washington, as we talked about earlier. Adding in Omar Cooper on the boundary would help a lot. But before we move on, I just want to say how the Buffalo Bills have met with both of these guys, KC Concepcion and Omar Cooper, at the Combine. Obviously, that was before they traded for DJ Moore. So it's highly unlikely they go after one of those guys in round 1, but definitely something to remember. And now we'll move on to 2 receivers expected to go on day 3. First, Jeff Caldwell, the freak athlete receiver out of Cincinnati, 6'5" and 216 pounds. The guy ran a 4.31 40 at 6'5", a 42-inch vertical, and an 11-foot broad jump. He's definitely coming off a down year, and that obviously hurts his stock. He only caught 32 balls for 478 yards and 6 touchdowns. But going back to 2024, this is where he shined. He caught 52 balls for a little over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And over his last 3 years, he's caught 24 touchdowns. This guy is a scoring machine. With Caldwell probably hearing his name called on day 3, we know he's a little bit of a project, but he is so fun to watch. He makes these long strides down the field, and he has an insane catch radius. He brings in balls wide receivers can only dream of catching. And he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. A perfect ball of clay for an NFL team to mold. Now, for the stuff I don't like about Jeff Caldwell, he lacks nuance as a route runner. He'll definitely need to add and work on that route tree. And he's a little disappointing and inconsistent for a guy his size, 6'5". He doesn't have the best 50-50 catchability. Kind of on and off, wasn't able to play at a consistent form, especially at his size. You'd expect him to bring down almost every ball. And lastly, we've got the brother of former 3rd overall pick, Trey Lance, Bryce Lance, the wide receiver out of North Dakota State, same school as Trey Lance. We've got another athletic freak on our hands. The guy ran a 4.34 40-yard dash, logged a 41.5-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump, which totaled to a 9.98 relative athletic score. Over the last 2 seasons, he's brought in 126 balls for over 2,100 yards and 25 touchdowns. Another touchdown machine. Lance is an elite athlete that glides down the field. He's sure-handed, a decent route runner, used in many different ways, and he's really good after the catch. His downsides, he's a little tight in the hips, not very agile. He'll definitely need to improve on his releases. Didn't face much press coverage in school. That'll be a new experience in the NFL, especially if they know that you're not very used to facing press coverage. At the end of the NFL draft, I want to see either Bryce Lance or Jeff Caldwell as a Buffalo Bill. Personally, I lean towards Caldwell just because he's a little more loose, a little more agile and explosive. I would love for him to sit at the bottom of the roster for his first year or two as a Bill, and then later on in that rookie contract, you can unleash him. Once he's improved on that route tree, he could be a real threat. And that's all I have for you guys today. I wanted to focus mostly on receivers, but I figured I'd throw in a quarterback in there too. Taylen Green, running backs Mike Washington, Jeremiyah Love, and then we've got Concepcion, Omar Cooper, and some later prospects, Jeff Caldwell and Bryce Lance. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care, and go Bills.